Yeah, look at this. Just snowed a whole ton here in Minnesota. You can see that. Doesn't look like it. I wanted to talk to you about, since I can't go fishing, you can check outside. Just got dumped on by snow around here. Thought the season was starting here in Minnesota, but it's not. So I want to talk to you a little bit how I practice for tournaments. So here we go. Obviously, I fish a couple different formats. Fish local ones. I fished high pressured lakes, and I fish like the Champions Tour, which is every fish counts. Um, I'll first start with like a local tournament. How I practice for a local tournament. I'll show you this little clip here of for a weeknight tournament. I went the weekend before. What a crazy day in June this was with all the fog and everything. This is just me checking some my C and D spots. You can see I'm just catching some pretty small fish. I'm just slowing down using a drop shot, seeing if I can find a school, seeing if I can find a school better sized fish. This was right once I got my new GoPro, and for some reason I had audio issues, so you can see me trying to talk to the camera a bunch of times, and nothing comes out, so we had to kind of punt. It's got me a couple times, these new GoPros. That one's a decent one, but not big enough for this lake. So this is the last fish of this little jaunt, and I get back into talking about my thoughts. You can see there's all this mist, clouds, and stuff, and I really practice for these kind of tournaments. Since I've spent so much time on these lakes, I try to look for something different, trying to get away from the crowd. Um, I may check a spot that I know they're going to be at, but I try to go away from what people do. If I know a bunch of people do something, I usually try to get away from it, so I'd give myself a better chance to excel, to win. I want to give myself looking for different stuff. If the prevailing thing is a certain thing, I guess you got to go with it sometimes. But for practice, I know the lakes real well. I try to look for stuff that maybe it's not going, or for something different. Can look how cloudy this was. Fish in this spot. Trying to look for something out of the ordinary, maybe a group of fish that I don't know about.
Oh, yeah. Big head. 2-2. Thank you.
This is an example of for the Champions Tour how I practice. Obviously, there's a lot of fish shallow. I take in, for instance, the time of the year, and that's a huge deal for what I do. But you got to catch fish is the number one goal. In fact, the last couple of years on the Champs Tour, I've barely been able to find very many deep spots to sit. That kind of stuff just hasn't been the deal for a number of years ago, or for a number of years for me, is to just sit on that spot where you just sit there and people would say peel on them, wrench on them, whatever it would be. So I spend a lot of time up shallow, just trying to figure out the best areas, best docks, other stuff like that. Me personally, I don't take a lot of information in. That's just not the way that I grew up, was taking a lot. If I do get a little bit, a lot of times I take some of that, and then I look for other areas like that, say Pelican Lake, for instance. looking for holes and stuff like that. So I got to try to find a shallow water pattern, and then I will look out deep to try to find that home run. That maybe there's a spot that I think I could blow it away with. And that's a big part with the Champs Tour. The way they break things up is to at least be on the right kind of area, right kind of stuff to make sure you're catching fish. So I do look for that shallow docks and all that stuff. And, you know, I found out the last couple of years that I have to do a little bit of both shallow and deep. I used to just say, I'm going to look for home run. I'm going to look out deep the whole time. And if it doesn't work out, I'm going to go shallow. And I have a tough time fishing behind people. And so when I go shallow, I better have something that nobody else is doing. Otherwise, it just puts me fishing between 7 other people. That's not the way that I want to fish. So I either have to spend a little bit of time shallow, a little bit of time deep. So if I know that that deep bite isn't going on or I don't have a home run spot, I can get shallow real quick before the groups, crowds, everyone that wants to do that. That's a big part of the way I now kind of go 50-50 on that kind of stuff. That's for a Champs Tour. Every fish counts. You get a couple of days of practice. Sometimes I get a day and a half. And you just kind of have to scramble. But I try to go 50-50 to at least get a little bit of an idea. Some people go all in on one or the other. But for me, 50-50, especially in lakes I haven't been to before. A lot of these places I haven't been to in a long time. One that I don't talk about all the time is kind of like I did spend a couple of years fishing like the AAA league, big bodies of water, and I know that some people really struggle with that. And out of those 2 years I fished, looking back, I wish I could change the way I fished. My buddies that the 2 Kyles that we ran with, they took a little area of the lake and like tried to know it as best as they could. They made their best guess, as long as they were catching fish. That's not the way I did. My knowledge of just, fishing history and stuff like that really burned me a lot of times that I'd be like Lake of the Ozarks and I'm like, I want to go all the way upriver because one time it was one upriver. One time it was one by the dam. And so I would just pick a little bit of here and there. And it really hurt me those 2 years trying to do too much. And I think their way of taking a little area and trying to learn as much as you can helped those guys. And I think they've excelled at fishing those bigger tournaments. But for me, just having that knowledge and everything is just, it hurt me for those ones because I looked at so much, even getting, sharing information with Kyle, I was always behind the 8 ball because you'd leave so much stuff in between. You kind of had to stick to a smaller area, and that's what I wish I would have done now. The couple of the ones that I did do, we kind of just expanded as we're going through the tournament, and I wish that would have worked, but you fall back that you just don't have enough stuff. I don't have enough knowledge on some of these lakes, so I wish I would have fished a little bit more in one area instead of running everywhere. Back in 2001, whoever won out of this pocket, so I run all the way there. And I leave this whole area and I don't get onto a true pattern, just trying to look at areas. So looking back, that's the way I wish that I would have fished bigger lakes. It kind of depends on you. You got to learn how you fish lakes differently, but pretty crazy that that can throw you off. Just that little bit too much running around and stuff, and looking back, I wish I could change it. I hope I still have another chance to fish those bigger tournaments again, but just being comfortable. I was always comfortable in the tournaments, but I wasn't. I wish I would have had another year, another chance to go back and just go a little smaller, slow down a little bit. That would have helped me out a lot for those bigger tournaments. So anyways, that's a little what we had going on. Just that you can see here just catching little fish. I do it a little bit different than some people where they want to know exactly where to fish. That's kind of just the way that we work in Minnesota. I started off with not started off learning so much on my own that I like to expand on things, and I can see in Minnesota that's going less and less that you can not like expand on a quick pattern. Maybe with the Champs Tour, I think that stuff moves a lot faster, just catching fish. But like in local tournaments, I think you really it's a tough crowd out there, and you gotta know exactly what you're doing. There's less and less of that learning on the fly to be able to go in somewhere. But just a couple little things that I noticed through the years. Hope it helps. Let me know. Or if you have any questions, you can always comment down below or somewhere. So thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. Hopefully the snow dies down here soon and we can get out fishing. See you next time.